Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at another thin and light laptop from Lenovo. This is their Slim 7i Carbon, and this is a 13-inch laptop that is very well balanced, as you can see here, and is very lightweight, coming in at around 2.13 pounds or 968 grams. It even has a touch display. And we're going to take a closer look at this laptop and what it's all about in just a second. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this came in on loan from Lenovo. So we're done with this. It goes back to them. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this laptop is all about. Now, the price point on this comes in at around $1,100 as configured, but of course the price will vary based on what configuration options you choose. This has a 13.3-inch display running at 2560 by 1600. It is an IPS display. It runs at 90 hertz, and it is a matte touch display, so it doesn't look like a touch display, but it is. The display will go down flat to the desk here, as you can see, but this is not a two-in-one that turns into a tablet. Now, the display runs at 400 nits of brightness. It is a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, so it's a little bit taller for doing document editing, and it covers 100% of the sRGB color gamut. This one has an i7 1260p processor on board. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM, DDR5 RAM to be exact, but it is not upgradable. However, you can upgrade its NVMe SSD, and this one came configured with a 512 gigabyte storage module on board. Now, the webcam on this is not spectacular. Unfortunately, it's only a 720p webcam, so as you can see, the quality is not going to blow you away here, but it's adequate for doing Zoom calls and that sort of thing. There is a switch here on the side to disable the webcam, but it does not physically block the lens like some of the other Lenovo cameras do, but it's good to have that physical switch there. Now, it has a backlit keyboard with very nicely spaced keys. It's very similar to other Lenovo keyboards that we see on their consumer laptops. One thing that I noticed, though, is that the key travel, in other words, how far the key gets pushed down, is not very deep on this laptop due to how thin it is. So if you are a fan of deeper travel, something like a ThinkPad might be better for you there. The trackpad, though, isn't bad. It is a little on the springier side of things, but it does track well and on par with other Lenovo trackpads that we've looked at. Now, as far as ports go on this one, you have a Thunderbolt 4 port here on the left-hand side. This is a full-service port, so it will do charging, video output, and, of course, Thunderbolt and USB data devices. That is it for ports on this side. On the other one, you have a USB Type-C port. This one is not Thunderbolt, even though the other one is. And this is a USB 3.2 Gen 2 port. So it'll run it up to 10 gigabits per second, but it is not Thunderbolt. So if you have a Thunderbolt device or dock, you got to plug it into the other side of the unit there. This is your power switch here, and then you've got your switch for the webcam, but you'll notice there is no headphone jack on this one. So if you're going to go with headphones, you're going to have to go the Bluetooth route or connect up some kind of USB-C dongle. Now, this unit did not have a fingerprint reader integrated, but it will do facial recognition via the webcam. As I mentioned at the outset, it is incredibly lightweight. It is made out of a magnesium carbon fiber mixture. And although it is pretty rigid when you pick it up and it's very well balanced when you move the display back and forth, I did find that it does flex a bit if you push down on the keyboard deck here, as you can see. But overall, the build quality feels pretty nice on this, and I really like how lightweight it is, especially given how well it performs. And we'll be checking out its performance in a little bit. Speakers on it sound pretty good for its size. It has decent stereo separation and things sound very clear out of it, especially for web conferences, but it doesn't have a lot of depth to the audio for music listening. The speakers are downward firing on the left and right here, so the sound quality might vary based on where you place it. So if you're going to listen to music, I think a pair of Bluetooth headphones is probably advisable here. So let's take a look now and see how it performs. We'll start with some web browsing and work our way up from there. So we'll load up the Google Chrome browser here and visit the nasa.gov homepage. And as you can see, things here spring up very quickly as expected because this is, of course, an i7-based machine. And I can use the touchscreen if I want as well. So all in, very nicely performing here for doing basic web browsing tasks. And as far as streaming media is concerned, it seems to do very well with that. We went over to YouTube and watched a 4K 60 frames per second video from my YouTube channel, and everything played back just fine with no drop frames. So I think you will have a good experience browsing the web and watching videos on this device via YouTube or Netflix or any of the other streaming services that are out there. And on the Browserbench.org speedometer benchmark test, we got a score of 260, and that puts this machine right in line with other laptops we've looked at running with similar Intel processors. Now, it's also able to handle more strenuous tasks like video editing. Right now, we're in DaVinci Resolve, and we've got a 4K 60 frames per second project here running. I just dropped a transition on the timeline here, and you can see that it was able to render that in real time here pretty quickly. And we're going to drop that transition in there and change it and see what it looks like now. And as you can see, for basic stuff, it's able to keep up just fine with just the Intel processor on board. This does, though, have a Thunderbolt port. So if you wanted to boost its editing potential, you could get an external GPU and plug that in, and that would dramatically increase what you could do with this laptop from a video editing perspective. But I think for basic projects, the Intel chip here will perform just fine, even at 4K resolutions. Now, as far as battery life is concerned, you're going to get about 10-ish hours if you keep the display brightness down and stick to the basics. If you're doing things like video editing here or gaming, that, of course, is going to impact the battery life more significantly. And speaking of gaming, we did run a bunch of games on it. Let's see how those did. So let's begin with Red Dead Redemption 2. We're running this at 1920 by 1200 at the lowest settings. We're getting about 30 frames per second, give or take. It's very playable here. And it's so cool that you can run AAA titles like this on very thin and light hardware. So overall, it is performing at the level that we would expect out of a 12th generation Intel i7. We also loaded up Doom Eternal here. This is also 1920 by 1200 at the lowest settings. Here we were doing about 30 to 45 frames per second, depending on what was going on in the game. This is a very fast game, too. We also ran Fortnite, and this one we actually ran at the native resolution of the display, 2560 by 1600. This is at low settings, and we were getting anywhere between 40 and 70 frames per second, depending on what was going on in the game. So that was a really nice outcome here, again, out of very thin and light hardware. And on the 3D Mark TimeSpy benchmark test, we got a score of 1,830. This is pretty much in line with what we've seen out of other computers running with 12th generation Intel processors. It is a decent boost in CPU performance over the prior generation Intel chips. And on the 3D Mark stress test, we got a failing grade of 90%. 97% is passing on that test. And what this indicates is that if you are playing a game, for example, over a long period of time, you will likely see a performance drop-off when you place the computer under heavy sustained load, about 10% here. And part of the problem, of course, is that it's a very thin and light laptop. So these are the kinds of scores on that test that we see out of similar hardware like this, irrespective of manufacturer. It just is difficult to get all of the heat out of here efficiently. The fan noise on it is a bit noisier than I've seen on other laptops Lenovo's been putting out lately, and the fan does seem to kick on more frequently, likely due to the compact nature of the device here. So if you are someone who doesn't like fan noise, there are some better choices out there, but the fan isn't high-pitched, it's just audible, if that makes sense. So it's not one of those annoying, whiny fans, but it is a fan that kicks on frequently, even under moderate workloads. All right, one last thing to take a look at, and that is its Linux performance. We booted up Ubuntu 22.04.1, and as you can see, everything seems to be working just fine. Video is working, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, audio, all the things that you want to get detected were detected, and even the touch display is working properly here too. So if you are running operating systems other than Windows, I think this one will probably do it for you, and overall I found the Linux experience on this to be quite nice. So in summation, this is another nice thin and light laptop from Lenovo in their Carbon lineup. It is very easy to carry around and it performs exceptionally well. I would love to see an ARM version of this that would get better battery life and would not have the fan noise, because this is the perfect form factor for that kind of computer. But overall, a very nice choice here if you're looking to run Windows or Linux on something that won't weight you down if you're on the go. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Chris Allegretta, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Logic KGR, Tom Albrecht, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.